In this video, I will share with you 22 mental traps that most people are unaware of, and once you recognize them, this will make you much harder to manipulate. Trap number 1 is to try to understand why someone acts the way they act. Before you ask yourself this question, ask yourself, is it possible to find a definite answer? If you're not a telepath, it might be difficult. Even if they tell you why, you don't know if it's true. They might simply be hallucinating or rationalizing. And then ask yourself, if you had the definite answer, what would it change for you? How would it change the way that their actions are impacting you? Would it change the way they act? And why are they even interested? If they're not interested, then what would it do? You'll come to them with an answer and they'll probably deny it. So why would you do that? Instead, perhaps assume that whatever they're doing produces the results that they want. Trap number 2, to have hope that something is going to change. Instead of hoping that something might change, try to look at credible reasons why it might change, and then look at probabilities. If you have no credible reasons for things to change, then assume that they won't change. And if you look at probabilities and probabilities are close to 0, then perhaps assume also that things are not going to change, or you might be
disappointed.
Trap number 3 is to look for logic in the way they act. How does it make sense between what they say and what they think? Perhaps simply the outcome is what they're looking for, and they'll do whatever it takes to make you feel bad. If that's the result, assume that it works for them. Trap number 4 is explaining yourself. When you explain yourself, ask yourself, are they actually listening to me? Are they trying to provide me with an honest understanding of my opinion? And if they put the spotlight onto me, am I missing something? Remember, if you are on stage in the theater, you got the spotlight on you, you don't see what the audience is doing, and toxic people and narcissists love to shine the spotlight on you so that they can operate in the shadows. Trap number 5 is being unprepared. If you're not prepared for what might happen, then you've got no defense. You can't do anything about it. It's like getting onto a ring fighting a professional boxer and never having practiced. You're probably going to get punched in the face, especially if you know what's waiting for you because you've already experienced how these people are. Trap number 6 is not knowing what you want. If you don't know what you want, you can't create a credible strategy to get what you want. Instead, take a moment and think, what do you want from life? And once you know what you want, you can ask yourself, is it likely that I can get it with this person? And if you think it is, why and how is it working for you so far? If it's not working out, remember, then why would it actually change? Trap number 7 is staying resentful. Tough things happen to us, of course. We have the anger, we feel it, we should process it. But if we don't process it, we keep the anger inside, and that simply continues to pollute us. It doesn't do them any harm, and it pollutes the life of all the people around you in the future, most of whom did nothing to hurt you. And if you stay resentful, you will end up using other people as punching balls, as a way of trying to deal with the anger that you have inside. Trap number 8 is very common. It's listening to advice, and especially advice from angry and resentful people. Remember, when it comes to advice, no one knows your situation. No one knows what you should do, how you should think. People can try to help you make better decisions, but if they offer an outcome, if they tell you what you should do, then they're manipulating you, quite simply. When you see that someone is still angry and still resentful, take everything they say with a handful of salt, because it's highly likely that they're simply trying to process the anger, and the so-called advice they're giving is simply them trying to work through their issues. Trap number 9 is not having a healing plan. If you don't have a healing plan, you won't notice any progress that you're making or lack of progress that you're making. It's easy to stay stagnating, feeling things, but it doesn't actually help anything improve. Make a plan, assess the plan, change the plan, but without a plan, probably nothing is going to be moving forward in the right way, and it's all in your benefit that you can make the progress that works for you. We've covered a couple of points so far. These are 22 traps to avoid in 2022 to make it harder
for narcissists
to manipulate us and increase the likelihood of having a wonderful 2022. With each of these points, I'm giving you an overview. Let me know which ones you would like me to develop more, to talk more about, and I will do a full-length video about them. Let's go back to the list. Trap number 10, we give away power to someone else. Instead of making our own plan, we listen to someone else. We assume they have got everything figured out, and we hand it over to them, and we stop monitoring. Always monitor. The person who knows how you're doing in your life is you. The person who benchmarks how things are going in your life is you. Please remember to benchmark. Please remember to check in with yourself and see if things are improving. If they're not improving, then don't expect them to improve. Lose the hope, but focus on credible strategies. Trap number 11 prevents us from moving forward, and that is when we cling to the persona of the person that we were with, the toxic person. Remember, the persona is a fake mask that they wear to seduce us, but we see that the mask doesn't match the actions, and we have to choose between the two, and it can be really difficult to let go of the mask. But the thing to remember is, decent people don't drown kittens. What matters is the behavior, not what people say, but what they do. If there's a mismatch, you can either believe the words or you can see the actions. If you believe the words and you're not willing to let go, you won't move forward and you're going to stay stuck. Trap number 12 is to invest only time and not other resources such as money. It's really important to remember your time is precious. Your time is valuable. All the time that you're spending in the healing process is time that you're not spending doing other things. And there are plenty of more important things to do. Yes, we have to go through with it, but not slower than necessary. And we can stay easily stuck, feeling things and feeling that something is doing a thing. But if you're not seeing progress, maybe you're not making progress. How do you know if there's progress? Listen to yourself, assess it, use a methodology. And if you can accelerate the healing process a bit, then maybe consider it. Whether it's working with a therapist, buying books, buying courses, just consider your time is valuable. Please remember that. Trap number 13 is thinking in binaries instead of using a bell curve. When we think in terms of bell curve, it's much easier to gain some of the nuance of reality and have a more accurate view of what is happening. When people push us into thinking in absolutes, they're trying to manipulate us. In reality, when there's a bell curve, we can discuss where we are in the bell curve, and the discussion is empowering for you. Trap number 14 is blocking the emotions. When we don't know how to deal with emotions, be it anger, sadness, or fear, it's easy to keep it inside. When we keep it inside, we're emotionally constipated. And when we keep it inside, we're easy to manipulate. All someone has to do is start pressing those buttons, and because we're afraid of the emotion we have inside, they will control us. We're easy to manipulate when we don't deal with it. Trap number 15 is emoting. It's assuming that when we display emotions that we are actually feeling the emotions in an authentic way. That is not the case. That is noise. It's also assuming that when people are displaying emotions in a theatrical way that they are really feeling the emotions, but that is not the case. People lie, people act, people manipulate. Don't assume there's a correlation between how intensely an emotion is displayed and what is really being felt inside. When people are emotionally constipated, it's easy to be deluded by people who are emoting, but that is another form of manipulation. Trap number 16 is assuming sincerity on behalf of the people we talk to. But why do we assume they are sincere? People lie, people deceive, and people like to manipulate others. Do not assume sincerity, especially if you have proof that people are not being sincere or they're not being honest. Trap number 17 is falling for outrage. It's assuming that the more somebody is outraged, the more somebody else did an offense against them. But this is an easy way to manipulate people. All you have to do is scream and shout and play victim. It doesn't mean that anything really happened. And many narcissists fake outrage because they know it works, especially with people who have high levels of empathy. Trap number 18 is redefining words, and this happens so often when a narcissist says something that doesn't make any sense and they just say, well, I meant the word differently. Words have specific meaning. When we can think clearly, we don't need to change the meaning of words. When people change the meaning of words or confuse the meaning of words, we don't know what they're really saying, and maybe they're just trying to confuse us, because if we're confused, we can hand over power to them and they can manipulate us. Trap number 19 is the one lens fallacy. One lens doesn't show you everything in the world. It shows you part of it, but not all of it. If somebody peeks into your house through the bathroom window, they see one part of the house. The fallacy is to assume that because they saw through one window, you live in a bathroom and there is nothing else in your house. Then they go around saying, my lens, my way of looking at the world is the only accurate way and it shows everything. There is no one lens that shows everything. There's no one window into your house that shows the entire house. Whoever believes this is deluded, is lying to themselves and lying to others. Every lens has some utility, and the utility is limited. To assume it explains everything requires that you lie to yourself. Be aware of doing this to yourself, and be aware of people who do it. Those people are manipulators. Trap 20 is the good versus bad fallacy. It's thinking there are good people, there are bad people. If we label someone as good, it means that we close our eyes to everything they do that is toxic. The people who are trying to tell us who is good and who is bad are people trying to manipulate others. They are trying to guide the way we think. They're trying to make us close our eyes and our ears to certain things because they'll label it as being bad. And then there's also a threat of blackmail. If we disagree with them, they will label us as being bad. People who believe that, they are deluded. Maybe don't listen to deluded people. Trap 21 is identifying ourselves with labels, whatever the label might be. I'm an empath, I'm a whatever-ist. Whenever we use labels, we are trying to reduce our personality to a label, but we are not a label. We are complex human beings. Our ability to think for ourselves means that we can protect ourselves against narcissists. Narcissists will be pushing the use of labels because it makes us easier to be manipulated. How do we know if this is happening? We look at the results. If your life is not working out for you and you're using labels, maybe the label is part of the problem. It seldom is part of the solution. Trap 22 is lying. It's the self-gaslighting. When we observe something to be true or untrue, but we're not willing to admit it, we're lying to ourselves. Narcissists push people to gaslight themselves because when people are self-gaslighting, the narcissist doesn't have to do any work anymore. The person is taking care of everything for them. Always a bad idea. If you're lying to yourself, if there's something in reality that you can't accept, that you will not accept, that you don't understand, or that you're trying to explain and justify, that's a sign that you've been gaslit and you're self-manipulating. And a bonus trap that is so important, trap number 23, is to believe that information that is true is systematically relevant. There's a lot of information that's true and completely irrelevant. Narcissists like to overload our brains with too much noise, so we can't tell what is true and irrelevant, or true and relevant, or simply false. They overload us, because when we're overloaded, it's easier to make us delegate responsibility to them. When we do that, we give our power away, and they get into the driver's seat of our life.